You spoke once. You gave them your truth. You bled it out in front of them, like a surgeon slicing open your own chest, just to hand them your beating heart. And what did they do? They looked at it. They didn't hold it. They didn't protect it. They just stared, confused, like your pain was a language too complex for their shallow minds. And then they dropped it, just like that. Let it fall to the floor, like it meant nothing. And you stood there, silent, waiting for them to realize, waiting for someone to pick it up. You thought the truth would set you free, didn't you? Nah, it just showed them exactly where to stab next time. That's the cruel part. You think when you finally open up, when you finally give them a piece of you, they'll say, thank you. They won't. They'll say, interesting, and toss it in the trash like an old receipt. And now you're wondering what went wrong. I'll tell you what went wrong, kid. You trusted noise. You thought that your voice, your explanation, your pain would matter in a world built on pretending and filters and silence. You made noise, and the wrong people heard it. Now it's time you shut up. Not out of fear, not out of weakness, but out of something far more powerful: clarity. See, you thought your voice was a weapon. It's not. It's bait. And you threw it out there hoping someone real would bite. But the only ones who bit were the leeches, the attention junkies, the fake comfort givers who wanted your pain so they could feel stronger. They don't want to help you. They want to watch you unravel so they can sleep at night, knowing they're not the only broken ones. They don't want healing. They want entertainment. And you, yeah, you gave it to them. Free show. Front row seats. Look at me, I'm hurting, help me. You begged. You cried. You explained your every breath, like it came with an instruction manual. And still, they didn't get it. Want to know why? Because they were never meant to. You're out here offering gourmet meals to people who only know how to chew gum. You're writing poetry for creatures that only speak in likes, shares, and shallow grins. But silence. Now that's where the real power hides. Silence doesn't beg. Silence doesn't explain. Silence doesn't ask for respect. It demands it. And here's the twisted beauty of it all. The moment you go silent, they panic. Not because they miss you, not because they care, but because they've lost control. See, your voice gave them a handle to grip, something to grab when they wanted to twist your mind and bend your emotions. But when you go quiet, you disappear from their script, and people hate that. They can't stand not knowing what's going on inside a mind they once thought they owned. Silence turns the mirror on them. And baby, trust me, they hate their own reflection. You gotta understand, pain changes people, but silence rewrites the rules. You don't owe anyone your voice anymore. You gave it once. That's enough. Now let your absence scream louder than your explanations ever could. Let your withdrawal sting more than any goodbye you could craft. No paragraphs, no closure, no damn speech. Just vanish and let them feel the void they carved into you. Let them choke on their own assumptions. Let their guilt ferment in the vacuum you leave behind. That's justice. That's revenge. That's peace. You want peace, right? Then shut the hell up. Walk out. Don't explain. Don't announce. Just go cold. Freeze the access. Lock the doors. Cut the wires. Let them feel what it's like to scream into silence. And when they come knocking, because they will, don't answer. Not out of spite. Out of evolution. The old you, the one who needed to be understood, dead, gone, finished. You spoke once, and that was your funeral. Now you let silence finish the job. Because nothing kills faster than being ignored by the one they took for granted. Nothing burns more than realizing they lost you without even a goodbye. You want to know the funniest part? The second you go silent, they'll start inventing reasons for it. That's what people do when they lose access. They create their own version of you, built from their insecurities and regrets. They'll whisper lies to each other just to make sense of why you're no longer dancing to their rhythm. He changed. She's cold now. They're acting different. But what they'll never admit, what they'll never say out loud, is that they were the reason behind the silence. No one wants to be the villain in their own story, so they'll paint you as the monster for walking away, when all you ever did was stop bleeding for people who never brought a bandage. They'll rewrite history, twist timelines, spin tales to make themselves feel like the victims. And that's fine. Let them. Let them drown in the fiction they crafted just to sleep at night. You don't have to prove anything. That's the beauty of silence. You don't have to fight back. You just disappear. And that absence, that echo, it'll haunt them longer than any angry words ever could. Because silence forces people to sit with themselves. And most can't do that. They can't handle the mirror when it's not fogged up by noise, when it's clean and honest. They'll replay every conversation, every moment, trying to find where they lost you. They'll search for the crack in the wall, not realizing they were the wrecking ball all along. That's the consequence of betrayal wrapped in silence. It doesn't slap, it suffocates. It wraps around their throat at 3 a.m. when the world goes quiet and the only thing left is the echo of your absence. That's when they'll realize. That's when the regret creeps in like smoke under a locked door. Slow, silent, deadly. And let me tell you something real. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people ammo. Every word you gave them was a bullet, a vulnerability wrapped in syntax, and they loaded their guns with it, fired when it suited them, shot you down with the same truths you trusted them with. So now you shut up. Not because you're weak, not because you're bitter, but because you're done giving them bullets. Let them fight shadows. Let them aim at ghosts. You're no longer on the battlefield. You've become the silence that surrounds it. You've become the aftermath, the quiet that follows the war. And nothing is scarier than a storm that's already passed, but still lingers in the air, making everyone wonder if it'll strike again. Silence is the coldest revenge. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's surgical, precise. And when done right, it breaks people without you ever lifting a finger. It turns what happened into an obsession. It makes your name taste like regret. It makes every message they don't get a scar, and every second they don't hear from you, it's a reminder that they pushed someone real into silence. And real ones don't echo back. They vanish. And they leave you to rot in the noise you thought was worth more than their peace. So here's what you do. You leave everything unanswered. Every insult, every betrayal, every fake apology wrapped in sugar and slime. Leave it all hanging in the air like unfinished business. Don't close the chapter. Don't write the ending. Rip the page out and walk away. Let the silence be the period. Let the void speak for itself. And watch, just watch, how they start talking about you more than they did when you were screaming for them to listen. That's the irony. When you're loud, they ignore you. When you're silent, they can't shut up about you. That's when you know you've won. Because when silence is done right, it doesn't just mute the world, it amplifies your worth. They say silence is golden, but that's a lie. It's not golden, it's deadly. It's the sound of a graveyard where trust went to die. It's the echo inside a chamber where love once screamed and loyalty bled out. Silence isn't soft. It's violent in the most sophisticated way. It's a war without guns, a punishment without noise, a mirror without cracks. And the people who once danced in your light, they'll crumble in your silence because they were never ready for you to pull back. They fed on your presence. They gorged on your kindness like it was free, like it didn't cost you nights of self-doubt and days of holding back tears just to keep them comfortable. You were their warmth, their certainty. And the second you go cold, really cold, they'll feel it in places they didn't know could freeze. And that's when they start showing their true colors. When you're silent, you force them to speak. Not with words, but with actions. And oh, how loud actions can be when there's no sound to cover them up. See, when you were talking, they were hiding behind fake smiles, polite nods, empty apologies. But now that you've shut the hell up, now they're exposed. Now the masks fall. And guess what? Most of them ain't wearing anything underneath. Just hollow shells, mirrors of each other, repeating the same empty lines they fed to everyone else who dared to care. But you were different. You gave a damn. And that's what made you dangerous. Not your anger, not your words, your care, your loyalty, your presence. That's what scared them. Because deep down, They knew they couldn't match it. They couldn't reciprocate it. They couldn't understand it. So they tried to silence it. They mocked it, took it for granted. But now the silence isn't yours. It's theirs. And they don't know what to do with it. That's the real twist. You thought silence was surrender, but it was evolution. You didn't lose your voice. You just stopped wasting it. And you know what's poetic about this whole mess? The same people who told you to move on are now stuck in your rear view, praying for a glimpse. Just one sign that you're still watching, still listening, still somewhere within reach. They want closure. They want a final word, but they don't deserve it. They had their chance when you were speaking, screaming, crying, breaking, and they wasted it. They mocked it. And now, they want to whisper? A goodbye? Hell no. Let them suffer in the silence they created. Let them taste what they served. You don't owe anyone a conclusion. You are the conclusion. Your silence is the final scene. And it doesn't come with credits. Doesn't fade to black. It just stays quiet, sharp, eternal. You ever notice how the strongest people don't argue? They don't chase. They don't plead. They just go quiet. And suddenly, the room gets heavy. The air gets thick. That's not weakness. That's dominance. Because when you stop talking, you start controlling. Not them, you. You control your peace, your energy, your reactions. You stop giving them pieces of you to break. You stop letting them inside your head, rent-free. And that scares them more than anything. Because people expect chaos. They expect you to scream, fight, cry. But when you do none of that, when you just walk away with that dead look in your eyes and that peace in your chest, that's when they realize they lost something real. And it's never coming back. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them fabricate stories to explain your silence. Because none of it matters. What matters is you own that silence now. You wield it like a weapon, not to hurt, but to protect. Your peace is sacred now. Your time is sacred. Your voice, even more so. So don't waste it. Don't cast your pearls to pigs, hoping they'll become swans. They won't. They'll trample it. Like they always did. Like they always will. You spoke once, that was mercy. Silence now, that's judgment. That's the verdict. That's the closing statement in a trial where the only crime was your kindness. You see, when you start walking in silence, something strange happens. You start hearing things you never noticed before. Not from others, from yourself. You start hearing your thoughts without them being polluted by the noise of their opinions. You start seeing your value without the distortion of their judgment. Because when you were talking, when you were explaining, defending, breaking down every detail of your pain like a damn roadmap, they made you feel like you were crazy, like you were asking for too much, like your emotions were a burden, and your honesty was a weakness. But now that you've shut the door, now that you've gone ghost, you finally see that their problem was never with what you said. It was with the fact that you had the nerve to speak in the first place, that you dared to be real in a world built on masks. You stood up in a room full of liars and told the truth, and they hated you for it, because truth is radioactive to cowards. It burns, it exposes, it strips away all the pretty little lies they built their comfort on. But silence is a different kind of truth. It doesn't burn, it chills. It freezes everything around it. And the people who used to bask in your warmth will start shivering. They'll scroll through old messages, stare at pictures, replay memories that they swore didn't matter. And each one will hit harder than the last, because now they see what they never appreciated when it was in front of them. Your presence wasn't normal. It was rare. Your care wasn't an obligation. It was a damn privilege, and they threw it away like spare change. That's what silence reveals. Not your weakness, their blindness. It shows who saw you as a gift and who treated you like a backup plan. It separates the real from the noise. And trust me, once the silence settles, the noise starts screaming. You don't have to lift a finger to get revenge. Just elevate. Elevate so far that they can't reach you anymore. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. Let them watch you from the bottom while you rise in silence. No announcement, no celebration, just motion. Cold, precise motion. Let them see you grow without them. Let them feel the absence of your support, your loyalty, your protection. Because real ones don't beg to be heard. They just make themselves impossible to forget. And baby, your silence, it's unforgettable. It lingers. It stings. It wraps around every what if they buried and rips it to the surface. Let them deal with the version of you they created in their heads. The too much, the too intense, the too sensitive. Let them sit with that while the real you evolves in shadows. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your healing. That's sacred ground now. That's restricted access. And the people who made you question your worth, they're not getting a pass to the new chapter. They're not even in the damn prologue. They had the chance to be part of the story, and they fumbled it. Now they can sit outside the covers, guessing what's inside, but never knowing. And that mystery, that silence, it'll eat them alive. Because humans fear the unknown. And nothing is more unknown than a real one who went quiet. So stay silent, stay focused, stay dangerous. And if they ever come back knocking, looking for closure, looking for that old version of you, just remember, you spoke once. That was their chance. That was the warning. Now, let silence finish the job. Because in a world full of noise, your silence is a scream. They'll try to drag you back, you know, not because they love you, not because they miss the real you, but because they miss the power they had when your soul was exposed and your loyalty was theirs for free. They miss the control, the grip, the ability to break you with one word, knowing damn well you'd stick around anyway. But now, you're silent. And silence is control reclaimed. It's you taking the reins back and saying, I don't need to be understood anymore. I just need to be free. That silence, that's the scariest version of you they'll ever meet. Not angry, not broken, just unavailable. You become unreachable and suddenly their whole game falls apart. You were the glue. You were the steady one. You were the one who bent, adjusted, tolerated. But now you're stone. And they hate that. Because stone doesn't respond. Stone doesn't apologize. Stone doesn't ask for closure. It is the closure. You see, when you go silent, people start remembering the weight of your words. Every sentence you spoke. Every warning you gave, every time you said, this is hurting me, it all starts echoing back to them like thunder after lightning. It's funny how they never heard you when you were loud, but now that you're silent, they can't stop hearing you in everything. Every song, every quote, every quiet room they walk into. That's the curse of losing someone real. The silence isn't just absence, it's punishment. It's the echo of what they could have had if they'd only listened. But people don't listen. They wait for their turn to speak, to manipulate, to twist the story in their favor. And when you stop playing the game, when you drop the damn mic and walk away, they're left with nothing but their guilt and the ghost of your patience. You ever notice how silence makes people panic? Watch them. The second you stop replying, they unravel. One day without your voice, and they start pacing. 2 days, and they're checking your socials. A week, and they're crafting essays in their heads, trying to figure out what they did wrong, because they know they did something. They just hoped you'd never realize it. And now that you have, now that you're gone, and the door is closed, and the locks are on from the inside, they're scrambling for keys they threw away. That's justice. That's the balance of the universe restoring itself, not with fire, not with chaos, but with pure, merciless silence. Let them drown in it. Let them stew in the soundless storm, because you've got better things to do. You've got healing to pursue. You've got goals to chase, peace to find, empires to build. And none of that requires you to lower your volume for people who never heard you in the first place. You don't owe anyone a comeback. You don't need to be dramatic. Real strength is quiet. Real pain is silent. And real transformation, it happens in the dark, far away from the eyes of those who only watched to see you fall. You're not the same anymore. The silence changed you, hardened you, refined you. And now, when you walk different, with purpose, with control, with a calm that scares people more than rage ever could. Because rage is predictable. Rage is loud. But silence is unpredictable. It leaves them wondering, guessing, terrified of what comes next. And that's power. That's presence. That's the real you, the version they were never ready for. The version who doesn't need to yell to be heard. The version who doesn't need to explain to be understood. The version who speaks once and then lets silence finish the job. You know what they fear most? Not the scream, not the slam of the door, not even your tears. No, what they truly fear is the stillness, that cold, emotionless silence that hits after they know they crossed a line. It's that deafening calm where they realize you're no longer theirs to hurt. And that's what breaks them. Not the fight, not the anger, the realization that they can't reach you anymore, that they played with a soul too deep for their shallow games. And now it's gone, out of reach, out of sight, and worst of all, out of forgiveness. You used to explain everything, why you were upset, why you stayed, why you gave them 100-second chances. But now you don't even blink. That's the kind of silence that haunts people. Because when someone like you stops talking, it means they finally saw the truth. And no one can handle that kind of honesty. Not when it comes without words. You spent months, maybe years, trying to prove your intentions. You wore your heart outside your chest, hoping someone would treat it right. You stood in rooms full of people who claimed to love you, and yet made you feel invisible. You shouted your truth into voids that only echoed back your insecurities. And through it all, you stayed. You justified. You explained. You begged to be seen, to be understood, to be enough. But silence was the answer you were searching for all along. Because the more you talked, the less they listened. The more you gave, the more they expected. You turned yourself into a translator of your own pain, and still, they misread you. But the moment you closed your mouth, the moment you said nothing, everything changed. Now they hear you everywhere, in the quiet, in the absence, in the sudden lack of access. That's when they start listening. Not to you, but to the silence you left behind. And don't let them fool you with their sudden concern. The "how have you been" messages, the "I miss our talks," the "let's catch up." That's not love, that's guilt, that's fear. They miss who you were for them, not who you truly are. They miss the convenience, the safety net, the person who'd drop everything just to make them feel better about their chaos. They don't miss you, they miss owning you. But that version of you, gone, buried, reborn in silence. And if they ever want access again, they'll have to climb mountains they once set on fire. But don't wait for that. Don't hope for that. Just keep walking, keep building, keep healing, in silence. Because now, every step you take without them is a reminder that their presence was never a necessity. It was a distraction, a noise you mistook for music. You're not cruel for going silent. You're not heartless for walking away without explanation. You're wise. You're finally protecting what they tried to drain from you. Your energy, your peace, your worth. And that silence? That's you reclaiming it all. Because in the end, the loudest statement you'll ever make is leaving without a sound. No tantrum, no goodbye, just silence and success. And when they see you thriving, evolving, untouched by the chaos they left behind, that's when they'll feel it. That deep, gnawing regret. Not because you were loud, but because you're quiet now. Too quiet. And nothing speaks louder than that. They'll start calling it pride. They'll say, "You're too stubborn," or "You're acting cold." But what they'll never admit, what they'll never say out loud, is that your silence was born from survival, not ego. Because talking, that took strength. Explaining yourself every damn time, that was effort. That was love. You spoke because you cared. You spoke because you believed that maybe, just maybe, if you broke yourself down into small enough pieces, someone would finally understand. But they didn't. And it wasn't because you were too complicated. It was because they never had the depth to understand you in the first place. So now you've learned. Now you keep those pieces to yourself. You rebuild in the dark, quietly, powerfully. Because silence isn't about holding back, it's about leveling up. It's about realizing your value isn't up for discussion anymore. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth. You are the worth. And if they can't see it in your silence, they never deserve to hear it in your voice. They thought you'd chase forever, didn't they? That you'd always be the one to fix things. That no matter how many times they failed you, you'd return like clockwork, arms wide, explanations, ready. But not this time. This time, you disappeared. Not in pieces, not shattered. You disappeared whole, focused, calm, and that's what scares them. Because now they realize you never needed them. You chose them, and they abused that choice. They turned your love into a weapon, your loyalty into a leash. And when you cut the cord, when you stopped showing up for your own destruction, they were left with what they always feared: accountability. Your silence forces them to face the mirror, and trust me, they don't like what they see. That's why they scramble. That's why they pretend. Because the silence exposes everything they tried to bury. The lies, the manipulation, the small betrayals they thought you'd overlook forever. But now, you've gone still. And in that stillness, truth echoes louder than screams ever could. People think silence is empty. They couldn't be more wrong. Silence is full of answers, full of realizations, full of consequences. It's the storm you never saw coming because it didn't make a sound, but it flipped everything. You stopped being predictable. You stopped being available. You stopped being the one they could count on to carry the emotional weight of a two-person performance. And now, they're standing alone on a stage that used to echo with your care, your support, your light, and it's dark. Let it be dark. Let them stand in the silence and feel the weight of what they lost. Because silence is not punishment. It's perspective. It's clarity. It's freedom. It's the rope you cut when you realized you were the only one pulling. You don't owe anyone a comeback. You don't owe anyone closure. You already gave too much of yourself while they were too busy counting your flaws to notice your loyalty. So this time, say nothing. Keep building, keep growing. Let your silence do what your words never could, make them listen. Not to you, but to the part of themselves they've been avoiding. Let it tear down the fantasy they built, where they were always the hero, and you were the too much. Because the truth is, they lost someone who was more than they ever deserved. And your silence, it's just the final proof. You ever think about how loud silence becomes when you're finally at peace? Not the fake peace you tried to convince yourself of when you were surrounded by people who drained you. I'm talking about that deep, haunting kind of peace that shows up when you finally shut off the noise. Their noise. Their opinions. Their projections. Their expectations. You sit alone, and the quiet wraps around you like armor. Not because you're hiding. No, not anymore. Now you're guarded. Now you're aware. Now you know that your silence isn't loneliness. It's liberation. And when they realize they can't reach you anymore, not through guilt, not through manipulation, not through memories, that's when the panic sets in. That's when the tables flip. Because you stopped being available to them. And now their reflection shows nothing but the damage they caused. It's wild, ain't it? How they only start to care when you go silent. When you stop defending yourself. When you stop showing up. When you stop explaining every fucking sigh, every withdrawal, every flicker of sadness they caused and never acknowledged. You stop talking, and suddenly you became a mystery again. And people, they don't care about you until they can't figure you out. That's what bothers them. Not that you're gone, but that you left quietly. No meltdown, no warning, no fireworks, just gone, like a ghost with unfinished business. And every room you once filled with love now echoes with questions they'll never get answered. That's the curse you leave behind. Not chaos, but confusion. The kind of confusion that keeps them awake at night, scrolling through old messages, rereading things you said back when you still believed they'd change. But silence is the ultimate goodbye and the most poetic revenge. It's not yelling at the ones who broke you. It's letting them watch the version of you that healed without them. It's letting them witness from the sidelines as you evolve into the very thing they tried to destroy. No more begging to be heard. No more standing in front of people with your heart bleeding in your hands. No more translating your soul into simpler words, just so they wouldn't call you dramatic. That's over. Now your silence speaks a language they'll never understand. And if they want to interpret it, let them try. Let them spend the rest of their lives trying to decode what your last look meant, what your final sentence hinted at. Because you're done being readable. You're done being predictable. They took your transparency and used it like a map, only to try and conquer you. And now the map's been burned. You are uncharted, and I hope they feel it. Every damn inch of it. The weight of your absence. The cost of your silence. The deafening reality that they were the reason the most loyal soul they ever knew had to go cold. Because silence, real silence, only comes after love dies screaming. You gave them chances they didn't deserve. You gave them forgiveness they didn't earn, and they wasted it. All of it. So now you vanish, not to punish, but to heal, to evolve, to protect what's left of your soul from people who only see value in chaos. And when they come back, because they always come back, don't flinch, don't answer. Let the silence stare back at them like a mirror with no reflection. Because the most powerful move you'll ever make is disappearing in plain sight, and they'll never forget the sound of you not speaking.